This episode of The Matt Ferret Show is brought to you by the Brickhouse Agency. Brickhouse is a boutique independent health insurance agency that focuses on finding the right Medicare coverage for folks across the country. Matt's wife, Nikki, is the heart behind Brickhouse. She's great at making confusing things clear and is passionate about helping people find a Medicare insurance policy that suits their individual needs. To schedule a free one-on-one appointment with Nikki or a member of her team, head on over to brickhouseagency.com or simply call 844-844-6565 and someone will help you schedule a phone call or a Zoom meeting. The consultation is free because the insurance companies pay Brickhouse, not you. There's never any pressure or obligation to enroll. Your clearer, simpler Medicare journey is just a call or click away. brickhouseagency.com. Not affiliated with or endorsed by the government or federal Medicare program. Contacting Brickhouse Agency, LLC will direct you to a licensed insurance agent.
Welcome to The Matt Ferret Show. Practical conversations to help you thrive in midlife, retirement, and beyond. I'm Matt Ferret, author of books and courses on Medicare and Social Security, and a former healthcare executive with decades of insider experience. I use that experience to help people make clearer, smarter decisions about health, wealth, lifestyle, and caregiving. Each week, I sit down with experts, insiders, and fascinating people to explore what it really takes to thrive, finding purpose, building stronger relationships, and creating a sense of meaning and community in the second half of life. Together, we'll light the path towards your wealth, wisdom, and wellness. Welcome to the conversation. Today we're talking about a financial topic that hits almost every family. That includes kids, parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, second cousins, long-lost relatives, which is how to pay for college without blowing up your retirement plans. My guest today, Brian Eyster, has spent more than 26 years helping families navigate exactly that problem. He's the founder of the GRAD process, G-R-A-D process, a system that helps parents fund college without sacrificing their long-term financial security. Brian's a certified college funding specialist. He's a speaker and financial strategist who combines his own personal experience with professional know-how because he's walked this road himself, and as have I, planning for his own kids' education. We'll unpack why traditional college savings plans can quietly sabotage your future and how to use home equity and cash flow more efficiently, and even how business owners, large, small, side hustles, they can turn college funding into a smart tax strategy. So, Brian, with all that, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I'm really thinking that this is going to be a fun conversation.
Yeah, me too. So I just did a little, but in your own words, tell everybody what you do and how long you've been doing it. And most importantly, what led you to specialize in this and helping families plan for college and retirement at the same time?
Excellent question. So I have been in the financial services, we'll just call it financial advising, whatever name that you want, since I graduated college in 98. So I am going to be hitting, in fact, probably end of the week, my 27th year anniversary, officially, whatever that title is. And I love what I do. I love problem solving. However, what I found around mid to late teens is that a lot of my clients who are my age or a little bit older were having children that were getting ready to go into school. Now, if I had been working with them for several years, they're all set. It was just a matter of, come on in, let's sit down and let's just review what we did, why we did it, when we did it, to put them at ease. Fast forward, and as my kids are getting older and playing sports and I'm out on the field watching and just having conversations, the number one panic attack that parents were having is, holy crap, what am I going to do about school? And you can imagine the range of responses from it's all taken care of, I got it, we set things up when they were young, or there's a segment of the rich grandma and grandpa or are well off or well-to-do that wanted to set aside. Another segment of screw them, I didn't get a penny. They don't have, they can. Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting, Matt, hearing a wide, and these are all people that I like and I know and I respect, but to hear behind the right field fence, to hear all kinds of different viewpoints, I'm like, And so one day I was talking with a close friend of mine who's I've coached with him forever. And we're just talking like this. And I'm like, people don't know about it. Just like when we would go over the game plan, scouting another baseball team or softball team. Well, this person does this, and let's look out for this, and let's make sure we have a shift. And you know what? That catcher is going to 2-bounce it to second base, and the shortstop always goes in front. So let's have the runner go to the outside of the bag. We're going to steal bases all day, and I'm doing that when it comes to college planning. I'm like, people don't know about this and this and this and this and this. He's like, dude, you really need to focus on this. So the idea started in 2019. Fast forward to here we are, 2025, and everything got formally launched. I have one child that is in college right now as we speak, right around junior status. And then I have a high school senior. So I am not sitting in some ivory tower saying, waxing poetic about you should do this and this and this. I'm in the trenches. I was up until 11:30, 11:45 last night, writing an appeal letter to the financial aid department for my oldest daughter. Some unique circumstances and everything, and it warranted. You know what? If you don't get in the box and swing the bat, you'll never know what the outcome is. So went through it. Let's see. So far, we're 1 for 1. We appealed something else earlier in the year and presented the facts, and it worked out. So parents start coming in. Hey, what do we do here? What do we do here? Well, I have this. And sometimes I'm like, great. Or, ooh, I don't think you're going to like that outcome 15, 20 years down the road. Well, what do you mean? And so fast forward to Essential Strategies got rebranded. The grad process simply is just to take a family situation and create a logical order of what have you done? Where are you at? What are you looking at? What are you contemplating? Do you have the tools and the resources to make an educated, critical decision? Or are you just basically, hoping that it works? And then what happens if? And the stress testing and trying to find ways where you can recapture money. So
yeah, that's good, because I was going to ask you to spell out that grad process as well, and you started to. So you've got a process, and I'd like to hear about why it's a process and what it is, and specifically because how is that different from your traditional college planning? I mean, the wonderful thing I like to do on this show is I get to talk to an expert for a long time and not just have some CNBC article about how much college is going to cost in 10 years. And it's always $800,000, right? So, frame the grad process for me. How is that different from traditional college planning? And then I want to go into, your traditional, everybody thinks, oh, open a 529 plan, when they're born. And of course, there's everything in between. So what exactly is the grad process and how is it different from traditional college planning?
Excellent question. The grad process is basically, where are you at? What does it entail? Let me give you examples, Matt. Right now, for parents that have high school seniors or high school juniors, pause what you're doing, grab a notepad. This is for you. Parents of seniors. If you have filed the FAFSA and no one looked over it, is the equivalent of writing your college dissertation without any edits. Seriously. There are many parents don't know. No one's taught them that. Did you ever have a class on FAFSA, Matt?
No, never.
Or
the high school sent something in an email and it was a click here and it was a federal form.
I get it too. My wife went to the event. I was unable to make it and I saw it at The information wasn't wrong, but you need a little bit more, okay, with parents. And so just where are you at? Okay, so parents of high school seniors, it's too late to do anything on your tax return because that should have happened during your child's junior year. The only thing that you can do right now is where are your assets positioned? And you can legally, ethically reposition them to shelter them from the calculation. Now, let's not take it to extreme and take everything that you have and go over there, because sometimes what may be good in the short term ultimately is detrimental in the long term. And so we have to look at that. And the assessment of assets that are parent owned are at the high end 5.6. Could be a little bit lower. It's largely income. So where I'm going with this is for parents of seniors and juniors. This is not cramming for your midterm the night before and pulling an all-nighter and, burning a pot of coffee from, that's as dark as an oil change. You really need to start looking at it, junior year. Seniors, we can still look at it. Okay. But the options that were available aren't going to be available for your child's freshman year. We're going to have to wait until they are a sophomore year. See, that's the other thing too, Matt, is that most parents are unaware that the FAFSA has to be filed each and every year.
No, I mean, let's go into that for a second. So I know you said junior and senior, but many people have middle school freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and people already in college, or their grandparents paying a little bit of money or maybe helping somebody out with tuition. So start with the FAFSA real fast, because that one thing you said really intrigued me. Would you? What did you say? Would you fill out your college dissertation without, some type of editing? Well, the answer is no, right? But this is a government form. I mean, do you help people with FAFSAs, or is that already too late? How do I think about a FAFSA and who should fill it out and whether or not I should? And let's go all things FAFSA for a couple of minutes.
Yes. And that actually falls under the G process, because where that is where are you at right now? So that's what the G stands for. It's just where are you at right now? And we're just collecting data. Parents and families share with me where they're at, what they've done, what they've amassed. That's all the G is. So the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. It's the governmental form used by public universities. There is a alternate form known as the CSS profile used by a select number. It's only like 200 something private schools. And it is much more invasive than the FAFSA. The FAFSA is down to 50, 60, 70 questions. If you have to fill it all out, the CSS is pages upon pages. It's long because it's private schools. Private schools don't have federal money. They have their endowment money. And so they kind of want to get into your business a little bit more than the public schools to see if you are worthy. So the question of FAFSA that comes up, my income is too high. Should I fill it out? Very common. Yes, because here's the reason why. I agree, because I have a chart right here that I can show you. It may show green, yellow, red. This is income, number of dependents, and it's a quick sheet of, will I qualify for aid? Well, let's first define what aid is. Are we talking about need-based financial aid? And that's income and assets. Your income may be lower. Or are we talking about merit-based financial aid because your students are rock stars, rocking a 4.2 average and scored 1570 on the SATs? Okay. It's very common for universities that's going to, hey, we want your child. They are attracted to our university. It's a great fit on both sides. You got to fill out the FAFSA. So that's merit-based aid. Okay. If it's need-based aid, now there's going to be a little bit more emphasis of your income and your assets and maybe positioning, because we might be able to get the income from this green that you see, or I'm sorry, from yellow down into the green, which gives you more of a chance for need-based aid. It could be Pell Grants. It could be subsidized student loans. It could be, other scholarships that you don't have to pay back that are need based. Okay. But someone that's making 450,000 and their AGI is 330, you're not getting any need based, but you still have to, most schools are going to require you to fill it out for scholarships, grants, and we're not that far removed from COVID. COVID was a significant event for a lot of my small business owner clients. 1 month, everything is good. 6 months later, they shut down and they don't know what to do because of things outside of their control in terms of you might know people that own businesses as well. So your child is going into their freshman year, fall of 19, spring of 20. Everything's good. You know what? I'm not going to fill it out. I'm just going to cash flow it. I got the cash. Cool. Then things hit. 8 months later, they're out of business. State of Michigan. Governor was pretty hard on some people. A lot of people lost their jobs. Now, the child is going into their sophomore year, fall of 20, spring of 21. Their financial situation is completely different. Maybe they can get back on track. They're going to bet on themselves. But hey, you know what? We're making a fraction of what we're normally making. Let's see if we can get some need-based aid. Guess what? The university is going to say, sorry, you didn't fill it out freshman year. Not all of them, but a lot of them. You didn't fill it out freshman year. That means that you told us that you're good to go. We're sorry of what happened in your world, but even if
okay, so you should fill it out anyway, just in case something happens within that 4 or 5 or 6 year time frame. That makes sense. All right, so a quick question before I move on to 529s. Your traditional, everybody thinks of that number now. In the FAFSA, and I asked this for a reason, because in a lot of other ways, we all know inflation's gone up at the grocery store and the gas pump and all those other things, the things we feel over the last, let's just say since COVID. It's been really wonky compared to the prior really 20 years. If you want to get technical about it, probably back to the Carter administration. But when you see things like, in my world, I deal with the cost of living adjustments, COLA and Social Security. And a lot of people, they got 2.8%. Of course, everybody scoffs and goes, 2.8% is my cost of living adjustment. What are they thinking? Well, it's based on archaic things. And of course, on the other side, I do is Medicare and then IRMA. All these, official numbers don't seem to reflect reality. And here's what I'm getting at. When the income limits of the FAFSA, are they subject to the same kind of like, wait a minute, what? Are they rising or falling every year? In other words, are more people falling into these, you don't get any aid brackets at levels at which you're like, wait a minute, 6 years ago, this wouldn't have been the case, but something's wonky now where they're trying to keep people out in this weird way. I don't mean to sound all conspiratorial, because I'm not. I'm just saying these numbers are getting wonky on other federal programs, if you will, around when you actually qualify or get penalized for these federal programs. Is it the same way in FAFSA?
That's an excellent question. Deep. I like that. It's multi-pronged. While the income limits each and every year have been increasing, I don't know off the top of my head if it increases with inflation, because anytime that you look at a number or a stat like that, you can manipulate it. It's just like the S&P 500. That's an index with the 500 best funds. Well, guess what? The 500 best funds in 1992 are not the same ones right now in 2025. That's the same thing like with inflation numbers as well there. So you do see some rising, but what has happened is that the calculation within the FAFSA changes.
Right. That's what I'm getting at. Is the calculation changing over time for the better or for worse for family, I guess? For the W-2 employee, great question. And that's why I wanted to pause here, because I got two thoughts. For the W-2 employee that collects a paycheck, it is getting a little bit harder. Okay. They are getting some breaks, but it is getting harder. So as an example, prior to, it was 22, 23, right around there was changes to FAFSA. Leading up to that point, Matt,
if you contributed to a 401k, let's just say $100,000, just to make the numbers easy for our audience, and you did $10,000. Now on a federal tax return, you're only paying tax on the 90 because you deferred 10. Got it?
Yep.
Makes sense. Some people, and the existing account balance inside a retirement plan. I don't care if it's 401k, 403b, SEP simple. You don't have to disclose that on the FAFSA. You can have as little or as much. So families might maximize, or if they were listening to not the best advice, they might take their contribution up from 10,000 to whatever the max was that year, 15, 16, 17. They can make things work to lower the FAFSA, thinking that their income is lower. But guess what? Right. Up to that point, FAFSA would take your contributions and add it back into the calculation. So to the financial professional that is just looking at it surface level, makes sense. You can make an argument. Wait a minute, let's roll back the paperwork. Oh, it's an add back. So I just had to scrimp and save and, go grocery shopping on double coupon night. And it didn't help me out. So that's the example of what I'm saying is that there are things that you can do, but you gotta peel back the layer of the onion a little bit further. After that, now contributions to a retirement plan after the passage of recent, legislative acts can be excluded. Okay. But it still has to be a common sense. I mean, yeah, just because you can defer, if you're over 50, there's catch-up provisions. So, you can get into the 20,000 range. But if you're living on, ramen noodles, that's tough there. So, for going back in the second part. So for the W-2 employee, it's getting tougher and tougher and tougher because of inflation, because of everything else is getting expensive, and you're trying to make ends meet. Okay. For the business owner, now, I would argue that if you are working with a professional that's going to take some time, energy, and effort to read the boring stuff, to ask the questions, know how the tax code works, you can really take advantage of the situation right now. I have a business owner, and because so you're familiar when you were mentioning off camera that your children are older than mine. They're in I think you said your youngest was 22, 23.
I got 2.5 years left of tuition, man, out of a lot.
Yeah. Yes. So at one point you were accustomed to a number labeled EFC, expected family contribution. That is what the government thought that you should be contributing towards school. Now got renamed to SAI. Don't ask me why. Who knows? But the calculations are essentially the same to come up with this number. With a business owner, there are plenty of things that can be done to lower their income, which doesn't have to be disclosed. We just wrapped it up yesterday afternoon. We've been working on it about 6 to 8 months. I had this individual's CPA, this individual's tax attorney, the other individual's financial advisor at the time. I say that tongue in cheek. He's arguing because he is embarrassed that he didn't come up with this information to the client. We took the SAI from $50,000 and got it down to $3,000. $3,000 on an SAI. Now there's all kinds of things, ethically, legally, morally. Why? It's a hell of a lot more, pardon my French, Matt, than just, I'm going to take money and dump into a 529. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what that's what I'm summarizing here is things have changed over the last few years around FAFSA, around and then college tuition. We all know, we've heard this since we were in college. The inflation on college tuition is nuts. And the ratios are changing. I think the overall point is that I think we're all both making at the beginning of this is don't just fill the FAFSA out and go about your merry way. There are things you should look at with the help of a professional to make sure that there isn't something that you're missing that you should be doing more of or less of, or at least give you the thumbs up. You're doing all right. And I think that's important because I'm going to go to the next thing I was going to talk. You just hit it, the 529s.
Yes.
Everybody. I mean, you and I are similar, same age. We've been conditioned for, I don't know how long, open a 529 and save it. Why might that be the wrong starting point?
Excellent question. Keep me on track here that I don't go all over the place on this, Matt, because
Sure, I'll try.
yes, no, please do, because it is multifaceted. By and large, we are a society that has been taught that whatever our issue or problem is, it can be solved on a singular basis. Okay? I got high cholesterol. Well, take this pill. No, well, how about you do something to your health and lifestyle and your diet? Maybe we should start there. So forth and so on. Okay? Same thing with college. Let's just use a product. Okay. The first thing, if I was in a debate club and arguing against a 529, is we first need to define what a 529 is. Okay. State sponsored, not federal sponsored. Okay. Were you aware that every state has different rules? So, yes. So you are in Illinois right now.
Yes.
I am in Michigan. And let's say that we have a balance of 10,000.
Okay.
It is not used for school. Could call it an overage. Okay. Didn't need as much. Maybe they got a full tuition, something like that. It wasn't needed. Okay. In the state of Illinois, you can now use that money to pay student loans off up to a limit. Okay. You can transfer it over. It can be used K through 12 private schools. It can be used for grad school. There are provisions now. If the account was established long enough, it could be converted over to a Roth IRA. No, I'm keeping it general. There's a lot of specifics. Okay. So you can convert it to a Roth. You can pay student loans. You can use it for grad school. You can, you get the idea. In all,
it sounds. Now I'm waiting for the but.
Yeah. All of that is deemed a qualified expense. So what does that mean to you in your pocketbook? You use that money for any of those, you don't have a tax.
Sounds great.
I'm in the state of Michigan.
Yep.
The only way that I can use it tax-free is to pay for undergrad or grad. I can't use it for if I got a fifth grader right now in private school, I can't use the tax wrapper in a state deduction write-off to pay for school. Nope, not in Michigan.
So it is. I mean, we know it's state by state, but
it's state by state.
Really be very different state by state.
It's very state by state. So most people don't know that. But getting back on the main track there with the 529s, no, I don't think it should be your first place to position money. And here's the reason why. If you go on after we're done today, or the listeners, I can send you the web address, but it's the St. Louis Federal Reserve. They come out with a study. Let's call it like once a quarter. What is the average annual savings rate of a U.S. taxpayer?
Couldn't guess.
Okay. No, that's fine. But if you had to, what would you say?
Oh my gosh. 0?
A little bit more.
$100.
It's about 5%.
Okay.
Meaning the average household is consuming and spending 95% of what they bring home, and they're only saving 5%. So my argument right now, if I'm in the debate club, is why are we going to choose an account that we put money into that has all kinds of rules and restrictions that is used for a singular source? I'm now in Michigan. Okay. You could argue, well, I'm in Illinois, and Brian, you just said that there's other things. Okay. But it's money that has to be used for a situation. And if you have an emergency, there could be penalties.
Yeah.
And
locked. It's locked in. I mean, it's locked in like a 401k almost.
It's a singular use dollar. Okay. So, and if it's used for school, if you get what you want, you no longer have that money, which means your retirement ultimately is going to take a hit. If I have $100,000 and that's more than enough to pay for my kid's school, Now I don't have $100,000. Let's say that all of your kids were done and we're the same age. And so the next 15 years that you are planning on working till we get to normal retirement age, 65, 67, you could have grown out, and you can take a calculator what that $100,000 would grow to. Maybe 500, 600, if markets are favorable, so forth and so on. You take it out to life expectancy, you're talking about millions of dollars. But that's hard for people to wrap around. But if you put it in dollars and cents, that's money that you no longer have to provide you any sort of income stream in retirement. So to put money when they're young and lock it away when everyone is going through changes. You and I were sharing some of the joys and tribulations of raising kids and how things don't go according to plan, and why you have gray hair and I have a gray beard. And so to lock it away, to me, it's amateurish, and that's the coach in me. Now here's where I will use it. I have a 529 plan. So people in the audience are going, well, wait a minute, you're talking out on both sides. No, I just understand what it is. It's a tax wrapper. I choose not to have my money inside the 529. Why? S&P 500. Let's use that as an example. If it's in a 529, I can't do any tax loss harvesting. Meaning you sell it at a loss, get a write-off, turn around after a certain amount of days. That's an accountant thing. And buy the same shares back, because it's a long-term investment, not a 30-day investment. Okay. If you sell losers, okay, you can't write those off. There's nothing like that. You can.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you lose utility. When you
control
your money at 529s.
Utility, control, liquidity. Okay. You can have it elsewhere. Now, I'm a business owner. I am following the rules that is provided by the federal government. I am a business. Less than 100 employees. There's no rule that says that I can own investments. Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki talks about it, in a company name. I can own investments in a company name, not disclose it anywhere on the FAFSA. And then if I want to get an additional tax break, or I can take cash that I kept in a conservative account, or maybe grandma and grandpa for Christmas. Hey, we're going to take care of, Billy and Susie's. Yeah, let's use that. Billy and Susie's college next year. In the state of Michigan, the rules are up to $10,000 can be contributed into a 529 to get the state deduction. You're allowed to do more, but after $10,000, you're capped and you get no state deduction. So if I have a kid that's 6 years old, why am I putting money, losing the utility, not getting a state tax deduction for a planned purchase that I'm going to lose down the road? We can clean that up a heck of a lot better. So if families are cash flowing it, or mom and dad, our parents are giving us money, you could take it, put it into 529 plan. A week later, take it out and fund the university. So I'm not against the 529. I am just advocating that clients just step off the gas a bit and say, what else is out there? What are the objectives and what are the methods? And what we were saying with the soundbite financial planning world that we're in with the financial entertainers out there, they want to focus on the methods, not the objective.
I gotcha. It's a tool. It's part of it's one tool in a tool chest is 529. It's not necessarily the end all be all is what you're saying.
Yes. Here's another example where a 529 would come in handy. Let's say through strategic tax planning, which again, using the earlier example of this client yesterday, we wrapped it up. The CPA signed off on it and the tax attorney signed off on it. They just didn't know because they didn't know. But I'm like, go ahead, guys, poke holes in it, because I've done this with other clients as well, and they've signed off. They're like, fantastic. It is saving them 5 figures a year in taxes. That's 5 figures that was going to Uncle Sam. Because we spent time on the objective and the G and the grind process of where you're at. Holy cow, did you know you got these holes in your bucket? No. Well, here's what you can do. Okay, here's 1, 2, 3. They recapture the 5 figures? Maybe now. They take that tax recapture, put that money into the 529, and depending on the state that they're in, get a state tax deduction. So I'm not opposed to it. Just let's not take your very first dollar and put it in there, lock it away, and hope everything works out.
Fair. So let me rewind just a smidge. let's pretend that we've got median household income, family of 5, maybe higher than medium. Let's just say, I don't know, 120 grand a year combined income gross, W-2 employees. So we're not talking necessarily a family that has a tax planning or, they're probably doing their own taxes. Just they're not as complex necessarily as someone being able to maybe save 50 grand a year on taxes. Where does the 529 fit in there as well? Still same answer?
I would argue now it's not looking as attractive because you said lower income, not higher income. So less available resources. Why lock it away once again? That would be my argument. Okay. And what you just said, a median income of 120, family of 5, they're in that chart I was showing you with the green. They still have the potential to qualify for some need-based financial aid. Here's the kicker. And I can't believe I forgot this. You have to disclose the balances on your 529 to FAFSA. So it counts against the calculation to get the financial aid in the first place.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you for bringing that. You know what? You just said something I can't believe. We're talking about, see, this is a perfect example, Matt, of every person you talk to, they're going to dig in based on their knowledge and resources and expertise and make the argument. I mean, I even saw myself getting a little bit red there because I'm very passionate about that. I totally forgot about the thing. So great. You got profits each and every year. Okay. The account never suffered a loss. It's enough to pay for school. You qualify the 3 out of the 4 check boxes. You know what? Income's down. Ooh, we might get that. But then it counts against you. So 100 grand in a 529. And depending on where your income is, you could be, the highest is around 5.6%. This is.
So, wait a minute. So this.
Yep.
I didn't know this, and maybe I'm feeling dumb now. If you do what we were all traditionally told and still told is the product based, which is 529, buy a product, you might have some tax benefits to that product. And that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to start when they're newborns and contribute a little bit, and grandma, grandpa, mom, and dad can contribute there as well. At the end of the day, when you're filling out your FAFSA, what you've done saving over, let's say, 18 years is counted against you on your FAFSA?
All day, every day, and twice on Sunday.
See, I feel dumb for knowing that.
But Matt,
I'm the only one.
I am so glad that you are bringing this up because this is very typical of the discussions that I have. I'm looking at your reaction and a little bit of, I'm putting words in your mouth, but maybe inside you're a little bit peed off right now. Or how come I haven't heard of this for the first time?
It's just an example of, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, or I've done what I'm supposed to be done. And I'm not just speaking for me here. I did it. And then at the end of the day, what I did was like, oh, good for you. But now we're going to count that against you. Doesn't seem right.
So I have 3 rules that I tell folks about colleges, but this one is number 1 is colleges are a business. And they all have multi-million-dollar endowments. And just like anything in life, they have some monetary and political influence on how rules are made. Okay? So think about it. It's perfect. I'm going to wag, hey, a 529 is tax deferred, da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay. We're going to do it. That's going to get most people to bite the hook. But they don't realize it counts against them.
Yep.
Okay? So there's ways. Like I said, I have a 529, but
it's a tool.
With my
it's one of the tools in the tool.
In my real world example is working with my own CPA, and we got our taxes done in October. Because a business owner, I file an extension. I'll see you in the beginning of October, because I have spent since 2019 researching. And if I don't know the answer, I have on my phone, go to like very heady intellectual people. Here's the situation. Okay. And so we were able to ethically and legally craft a very favorable tax return. Okay. And then with savings, Okay, I'm going to cash flow next semester for my oldest. Okay, with the tax savings that we generated. But right now in my 529, there's $25 in it, the minimum amount that I have to keep. Why? $25, I'm not going to be assessed anything. If I had 25,000, that's a completely different story for my daughter, my high school daughter right now, who has to use, or next year, when she goes to be a sophomore, has to use this year's tax returns. So we have to play chess, not checkers. Okay. If I'm a baseball player, you can tell that I'm a baseball fan, huh? And softball. If I am a contact hitter, not a power hitter, and I am a contact hitter with runners at second base, and I am in a favorable account, okay, 3-0, 3-1, I can take a pitch and I want to hit it opposite field behind the runner to give the best chance. You got to know the game within the game. And that is what I love to do, because to see folks get emotional, like, I didn't think this is possible. It's there. It's just, no one has been trained to take the book, take the research, and let's go deeper. Let's go deeper. Let's go deeper. If we could do it, would you want it? Now, guess what? Some of these strategies, guess what? All of your talking heads on TVs, they're all going to poo-poo it. So if you're gonna take into consideration someone that makes multi-million dollars a year for an entertainment program on finances, if you're going to take their word over someone that's in it each and every day, we're not a good fit for each other.
Right.
You know?
Let's talk about another tool.
Sure.
Student loans. They get a bad rap, especially all the stuff in the news lately of forgiveness, not forgiveness. I mean, it's got politicized, but student loans. How can they actually be used strategically instead of as I have to, or as a last resort?
Excellent. Before I answer, let me ask you, what are your thoughts and feelings? And there's no right or wrong answer, by the way, but what when you hear it and think about it, what's the first thing that jumps out at you?
I like the concept of student loans for the OPM principle, which is other people's money.
Yes.
Which is to use student loans judiciously and in certain situations where it makes sense. And so, again, probably along the lines of it's a tool in the toolbox, and they have their place. Generally, that would be my answer.
Perfect. Let's expand on that. I love that starting point. And not everyone shares that, because I'm sure that you've come across in your day-to-day life people that are like, no, anti-debt. It's a tool.
Yeah, anti-debt, but there's debt to be used for, I mean, if you look at the average income of someone with a 4-year degree versus not, and you can extrapolate that over time, and you realize what percentages are, you realize you have to pay that debt back at some point, yes. But there's also a time between when college ends and your job begins. And so there's a lot of variability in there. It's flexibility, I guess. Yeah. I like the utility factor of having access to my own money, my own cash, let's say cash, and be able to do whatever I need to do with it in case something bad happens, or a car breaks down or something. I don't like tying my money up in places I can't get to it without somebody penalizing me. So that's a long-winded way of saying I like smart debt where it makes sense. I think school loans can be smart debt. That's a personal feeling. But they can also be really stupid. And it can be used for, you get those stories of people with $200,000 worth of debt for a 4-year degree in art history. It's got to be one tool in the toolbox for you, in my opinion.
Yeah. So we agree. I mean, the art degree with $200,000. Let's exclude that. Let's not take the extremes, but let's talk about it. I feel like, once again, it's soundbite financial education out in the mainstream press. There's a lot of gaslighting going on too. Especially now, because there's been, there's changes going on with federal loans and repayment loans.
Yeah. This
is a conversation that needs to be had prior to the student going to school. Like you, I am 100% in agreement. You can use it as a tool. My oldest has student loans right now, but it's a tool. Why? Because it's someone else's money. And it harkens back to, if you can use someone else's money and you have assets on your balance sheet, okay, that are in control and not locked away like in a 401k or a 403b or a 529, okay, don't confuse that with the underlying investment. If I had that S&P 500 outside of a 529 or outside of a 401k, I can go to banks, and I got a list of it right now, where you can pledge that asset as collateral. It's called asset-based lending. Okay. I can pledge it as collateral, go to a bank. If I got great credit and everything else, get some really good terms. Okay. Then the collateral that I am pledging to the company is going to continue to grow and earns interest, or continue to contribute to it and then take the interest in the earnings and pay off the student loan. You're going to come out ahead. And again, that's where then we crunch the numbers and we get into the mathematics. But if you're just going to take out student loans just for the sake of student loans, or maybe you're in a school that you shouldn't be going to, maybe community college is better than that expensive 4-year university, so forth and so on. It's the number one goal is to use other people's money. Why? The St. Louis Fed is telling us that we're only saving 5% of our income. So if we can hold on to our money, maybe go from 5 to 7 or 7 to 10 or 10 to 15 and create more resources and cash flow engines, then we can use some of that money to pay off the student loan over time. And if we happen to go to an employer that maybe has like a student loan repayment option, I forget what the actual IRS.
Yeah, that's right there. Like nursing does that, and there are a couple of other professions that's more.
There's all kinds of things, you can, or maybe you're going into the family business or something. So what do you want to accomplish, and how can we, it's a great tool as long as you have a strategy. And, there are differences between student loans when it's through a bank, like private loans, and public. Okay. Public is very generous, Stafford loans, things like that. Parent Plus loans, very expensive, very costly. It's like that decision you made in college that just won't go away. Plus they charge high finder's fees. It's interest rate plus. A lot of times I see 3-4%. So it's, again, like you said, it's a tool. Don't discount it. And if you're willing to have a conversation with someone about how can you use it productively in your own world where you're comfortable, and it helps to extend things out. And I know folks are going to say, well, yeah, it's interest. Okay. If you can hold on to your money and it's compounding in your favor compared to an amount that you are paying down and the interest is declining, very good chance that over here you're going to
your net interest rate is actually less than the loans rate. I get it. Using other assets.
Yep. And it's just holding on.
Let me pivot to something you said earlier, which is let's get into the emotions of this. And so I think the first 40 some odd minutes we talked about FAFSA 529s and then other ways of doing it. Don't keep your blinders on to those two things, student loans and 529s or cash flowing it. Just like I saved it someplace, I'll just cash flow this thing. Mm-hmm. So I want you to come talk to you specifically about their situation and really dive into a strategy for paying for this. Even if you have 100% saved, it's the deployment of those savings. And especially if you don't have anything saved, that can also be a different strategy. Let's get into the emotional piece here real quickly. There's a big emotional component about what you just said is, well, maybe they don't go to private school. Maybe they don't go out of state. Maybe they go to 2 years community college. And, parents, spouses, they can have a real, based upon, their financial makeup, usually set well before they got married, or the way they experienced college or didn't go to college, or they were the third gen that went to college or the first gen. And you said in the beginning too, one of your answers is, forget it. 18, they're out. They got to figure it out on their own. There's a big emotional pressure of paying for college. How do spouses or even relatives, how do they balance the emotional pressure of paying for college and all the variable ways you can do it, and then keep peace between the kids and the spouses and anybody else who might be involved?
Fantastic question. Lots to unpack there. I am in the thick of it right now. Okay. And I am in this business. And if for one moment you think it's all roses and ponies, and my wife and I get along on everything. And when it comes to college and everything, that's a misnomer. I mean, we will have some arguments. Neither is right, neither is wrong. It's a lot of times a product of their upbringing and what was taught that factors into, kind of sharing those thoughts and beliefs down to our kids.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a conversation that needs to be had. Again, late middle school, early high school, at least to get the ball rolling, Matt, to get started, because there's a lot of things that can change. It may turn out that, they're just not college material for whatever reason. Maybe it's trade school. They're just fantastic at working with their hands. And that's a heck of a lot better than taking, world history or some gen ed requirement, at the school, then it also has to go with, can you pay for it? And there's still a lot of parents that they want to help out. They don't want to disappoint their kids. They want to.
That's the emotional piece.
It's
sure. They that's their, in some cases, their last gift, if they can, is help their kids pay for some sort of post-secondary education, be it trade school, community college, full 4 years, until they die, really. I mean, so this is kind of their sending off, like, here you are into the world, you've flown the nest. That's a really emotional piece for almost everybody I can think of.
It is. And my wife and I, we go back and forth on it, and we're finding a middle ground. Because there's in no particular order, there's an emotional side, there's the logical, mathematical, analytical side. It's blending it together. You have a child that's 17, and because Johnny and Susie and all my other kids are going to university, why aren't we going there? Well, we could pay for it, but do you want a car or do you not want a car? Do you want you get the latest and greatest iPhone with the unlimited bill, or do you want to go back to a rotary? Would you
it's bringing it. When do you bring in the child? I mean, so if the spouses or other family members are brought in middle school-ish, mid to late middle school-ish is when you said, when do you bring the kid into it?
I would say sophomore or junior. I don't think it's necessary. And again, I didn't follow my own rules with my oldest. I mean, we are having, we started having this conversation her junior. I wish I would have done it a little bit sooner, but freshmen may not be necessary because you don't know yet if they are on the college path and plans. So why create conflict if it doesn't need to be there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they think that, and partly kids, they don't know what they don't know. You and I are the same age. We had money in our wallet, which was real and tangible. Then it went to debit cards. Little less formal. Like if we have cash in our wallet and we're out, guess what? There's nowhere to go. We're out. The debit card, okay, you can see the bank balance. Now it's, wherever my phone went, the tap to pay or the Apple Pay or whatever it is. Kids are becoming so desensitized. They have no clue what 25 grand is.
Yeah.
It's just a number. It's not real. And so there has to be a conversation somewhere. And if a child is smart and they have great grades and the college and them are sinking and fitting up, you can get into a bidding war and they can offer you a lot of money. And if you are going into a profession that is going to require an advanced degree, a master's or a professional, okay, try the hardest thing for a parent, Matt, try telling a 17-year-old that your future employer only cares about your graduate degree and gives no bleeping care that you went to U of M or to Michigan or to. Now, I'm not discounting it. There are some professions that no one cares. They want to know what your actual real skills. Great. I 4-pointed world history.
Sure.
They don't get it and they get emotional about it. And they aren't looking at the ramifications because you know what? Up until this point, they aren't paying the bills.
Yeah, and talk about that a little bit. So I know we're close to time here, but right before we end here, I want to kind of wrap this into the broader financial picture of the parents.
Yes.
And if you think about parents of our age or older or younger, midlife. Let's just call that broad. Paint a broad stroke here with a brush. The way you deploy how you help people pay for school. Again, I don't care if it's community college, private, or trade. It's not like you have a whole heck of a lot of time to fix some oops. You already talked about retirement, right? What could that money do that you were spending in an account somewhere, making a return over the next 15, 20 years as you get into that retirement age? You made that point. Cash flow, we talked about that, right? Which is you've locked your cash into a product or a series of products, or right, maybe you use some of that. Maybe you use student loans as one of the tools in the toolbox. But the other thing we haven't talked about, right, which is you have other financial events coming up in the next, some people 10, sometimes 15, sometimes 20. Medicare, Social Security. Those are the other pieces that come into play. And we also haven't talked about home equity. I had a guest on, I don't know how many episodes ago, talking about the average, the total balance of home equity on the books right now in the U.S. And it's in the trillions with a T. And people are scared to tap into that. And we've seen an enormous surge in housing prices over the last, well, really since 08, 09. They've gone nothing but up, largely over that time. Broader financial picture outside of what we've already talked about, retirement cash flow, things like home equity, Medicare, Social Security, your qualified distributions in those ages. How do you think about the broader financial picture when you're thinking about how to pay for college?
Huge fan of home equity, and I will argue it till I'm blue in the face. Again, multifaceted. Let's unpack a few, and we are on time. And if we want to have a part 2 down the road, we can.
Sure.
A fan of real estate. I like what real estate can do, because let's just discuss for a moment the characteristics of real estate. Okay. It's something that you can enjoy. It's you can touch it. It's tangible. Okay. Unlike a 401k, do you want a statement once a quarter that says it went up or down, or do you want to take that money in the form of a mortgage payment and have wonderful experiences in Northern Michigan while your kids still love you when they're young? And then,
Sure.
And then as it grows, okay, the home equity inside a house is not taxable. No place to put the growth on you're not getting a 1099 on the FAFSA, your primary residence. It's ignored. Okay. On the CSS profile for private schools, you have to disclose it. Now, second, third, fourth, those real estates, things like that, just in general terms, those are going to be assessable assets, but your primary residence. Okay. So we would love to move and live in a bigger house, but my Fidelity guy says I'm not putting in X amount of enough money into my 401k. Okay. Other people's money, leverage. Okay. The appreciation on your house is because of the neighborhood, the school district, the crime rate, the police rate, not what type of mortgage you had on it. So you're going to get appreciation whether it's paid off or fully mortgaged. You get the same appreciation in market value. Okay. And then with some of your designations in retirement, I'm sure that you are familiar with just the topic of reverse mortgages.
Mm-hmm. Actually, there's a guest, a couple of episodes about that on reverse mortgages. Yeah, which they're not called that anymore, by the way. But
I'm not sure. Is it the national?
No, I don't remember what it is either. I still call them reverse mortgages because of Tom Selleck commercials.
Yes.
Like 15 years ago. Yeah.
Is it? Yes. Initials DG. The guy speaking.
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful gentleman. And there's so many variations. In fact, he has an approved national designation that I have one college designation. I just sat for a test on another one. It's like the bar exam. It's going to take a while to come back. I have that. I'm going to take the reverse mortgage. So I can use my house. I can pay for school. My home's still going to appreciate. Okay. It's not going to dip. Depending on how it's structured and under tax law, consult your professionals. Okay. You could have a write-off. Okay. Check with your tax professionals on it, because there's rules and conditions of what you can write off and what you can't write off under current tax law right now. Yeah. And then you have cash flow that, and then, if you're working with a professional later in life, you're working on your cash flow, you're building assets that are available. And then ultimately, when you get to retirement, you have the house paid off, or maybe you want to keep a mortgage on the house because of a tax play, but it's a choice and a decision. I love it, real estate, for that. But it's also important to make sure that if things go sideways, like a job loss, a decline in income, something where that payment is becoming difficult, that you have other resources that you can go to help offset what that monthly cost is.
Yeah, it's another tool, is what you're saying, right? Because when you have a significant amount of home equity, I mean, let's just pretend you got $100,000 in equity in your house. Just that's locked away. You can't access it unless you sell the home or use a financial product, i.e. HELOC, or I guess a reverse mortgage, even though they're not called that anymore. But it's still an asset, and that still goes into asset, but it's still another tool that has to be considered, right? Is that the overall point?
Yeah, everything's on the table. Every financial product is going to have advantages and disadvantages, but to the untrained eye and ears, and to the individual that isn't in our line of work, they don't know what to look out for. They don't know how to critically think, because no one has given them the skill set. I'm aware of IRMA. This is your wheelhouse. Okay. I'm just becoming aware of it. If my life depended on it, I could not tell you what the acronym stands for, where I can whip off acronym after acronym in the college planning world, or how it works. Or I just know that it's calculations, and where your money is positioned there is going to impact your Medicare premiums. That's about as far as I feel confident in saying anything. And most likely it's 90% wrong what I just said.
It's not, but I think your point is made, which is if you think you're going to hit it, you better talk to somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yes. So the whole goal is to kind of wrap it up. If someone sees me out in the right field, Brian, what do you do? I show people how to pay for college and get a pay raise in retirement. That is what I do. Under normal, traditional, what you have been exposed to various degrees, you are going to willingly give up that cash and that asset, and it's going to go to someone else. The government, the university, so forth. The unintended consequence, the negative ripple effect to that, is that you no longer are in control of that money to spend and enjoy, to save it, to invest it, to do something. So that creates a real lost opportunity cost. Coupled with the fact that people are not saving enough because of the middle class getting kind of, shrunk on. It's shrinking because of all the pressures. If we can find ways to take that number that the government says what they think you can afford to pay, that SAI, and if we can ethically, legally, morally reduce it as low as possible to help pay for school, that's going to free up opportunities down the road. Other people's money is key. There's a variety of ways to do it. Someone that has great credit, home equity is there. Someone that's 530, maybe we're not doing we're not doing a home equity. That's where we have to dig in a little bit closer, because colleges, they're a business. They want to make a profit. Whatever offer they're going to give you, they're going to lowball you. They want to see what's the littlest amount that they can offer you where you bite the hook. And number 3, most people don't realize you can negotiate each and every year. So if you fill out the forms and you have a change in income, so someone has a great income year in 2023. Okay. That's what's being used right now for high school seniors. Okay. But 24 was terrible. You can disclose that on the FAFSA or the offer, or you get to the university and they give you the financial aid offer. Well, here's the facts and reasons. You know what? It was I had a job change. It was a signing bonus. They really wanted me. And they were willing to pay me $100,000 signing bonus, but it's one time. And as a result, I got to stay there for 7 years, a golden handcuff perhaps. And my income is nowhere going to be near what it is. You can disclose that, and colleges will consider it. And so it's just knowing how you got to know how the game is played, and finding a professional that is willing to roll up the sleeves, not just right away. You got to go to college. Here's a product because I can get paid on it, or I can charge a fee under management, or do something without any regard to the last hour of the topics that we've spoken about.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. I guess I wish I found you 6-8 years ago myself. Hey, and so if anybody wants to find you, how do they connect with you?
Excellent. So you can go, I would recommend that everyone goes to my website, essentialstrategies.net, essentialstrategies.net. On the website, there are plenty of places where you can kind of click around, just get a feel, learn more about the grad process. Plenty of opportunity, if you are so inclined, to click on a link to schedule a 20-minute phone call. And the whole purpose of that 20-minute phone call is to quickly see if, Matt, you and I like each other. You know, if you don't like my vibes and I don't like yours, you know what? Let's just end it after 20 minutes. Doesn't matter what I have to offer or what you have. You know, it's just not a fit. Let's move on. Or perhaps I can introduce you to some others that's a better fit. I have a resources tab. On there, you can go and you can download some materials about student loans, or about scholarships, or about completing the FAFSA. Go to the resource tab. It'll take you to a site and you can download it.
Thanks. Last question. What's too early and what's too late? When's too early to call you and when's too late to call you?
It's never, again, it's a cliched answer. There's not a bad time. It's when you call me is now going to dictate what sort of options and resources that you have available. Okay. So someone that is young, a young family, and I would say 3 phases. So one phase is 8th grade and younger. Okay. We're going to have one conversation. It's about improving cash flow. If you're a business owner, taking advantage of the tax law, those sort of things, and building up assets and wealth. Middle school till junior year, now we're going to start playing about what if. What have you accumulated? Where is it positioned? How's it going to look? What's it going to grow to? How's it going to impact your FAFSA or the CSS profile? It allows us to simulate without any real consequence because our kid isn't there yet. 11th grade is kind of that transition year. 11th grade with parents, you know what? Right now, you got until December 31st where you can proactively do something with your tax return. Otherwise, it's too late and you got to wait a year until you're in a new calendar year at the FAFSA to do something. Senior year, your income is already locked in. Now it's assets. And you are freaking out because your child is freaking out because you don't know how to determine, oh my gosh, an essay, a personal statement. What do I write? What do I type about? What's the university? Do I fit in the top 25? I mean, now you're in that, the collar is getting tight. And so depending on where they are is what we're going to focus on.
Okay. Brian, thanks so much for the time. This has been really enlightening, not only for the topic, but for me personally as well. You gave me a lot to think about myself.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me on The Matt Ferret Show. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please share it with a friend and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. If you're on Apple or Spotify, a quick rating or review really helps more people discover the show. For more resources, visit themattferretshow.com and sign up for the Matt Ferret newsletter. And if you or someone you care for needs Medicare guidance, book a no-obligation consultation at brickhouseagency.com. Helping people make smarter choices as they age is my passion. This show is here to light the path towards your wealth, wisdom, and wellness. Thanks for being a part of the conversation.
The Matt Ferret Show, related content, publications, and MF Media LLC is in no way associated, endorsed, or authorized by any governmental agency, including the Social Security Administration, the Department of Health and Human Services, or the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. The Matt Ferret Show is in no way associated with, authorized, approved, endorsed, nor in any way affiliated with any company, trademark names, or other marks mentioned or referenced in or on The Matt Ferret Show. Any such mention is for purpose of reference only. Any advice, generalized statistics, or opinions expressed are strictly those of the host and guests of The Matt Ferret Show. Although every effort has been made to ensure the contents of The Matt Ferret Show and related content are correct and complete, laws and regulations change quickly and often. The ideas and opinions expressed on The Matt Ferret Show aren't meant to replace the sage advice of healthcare, insurance, financial planning, accounting, or legal professionals. You are responsible for your financial decisions. It is your sole responsibility to independently evaluate the accuracy, correctness, or completeness of the content, services, and products of, and associated with, The Matt Ferret Show, MF Media LLC, and any related content or publications. The thoughts and opinions expressed on The Matt Ferret Show are those of the host and The Matt Ferret Show guests only, and are not the thoughts and opinions of any current or former employer of the host or guests of The Matt Ferret Show, nor is The Matt Ferret Show made by, on behalf of, or endorsed or approved by any current or former employer of the host or guests of The Matt Ferret Show.